was hot.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Well, hold on. That's actually a better question. Are we recording?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
Oh.
Do you think, should we just do a cold open on this one?
I think we already
Is
did.
this
I think we did.
I think
cold
we're
This is the
airing.
cold
We
open?
already just,
Are we live?
We're live. Hello. Welcome.
Jinx.
Oh, no, after you.
No, you.
All right. Welcome to the Scoundrels Inc. podcast. I'm Sully. That's Brandon, Frank, Kevin. You know the drill. You've been here before. Look, today we're going to talk about all things Star Wars. Not a whole lot of news today. We're going to talk about Andor Episode 4.
Episode 4.
The Force Awakens.
A New Hope.
Episode 4, A New Hope.
Oh, is that
No,
episode
it's
4?
Aldhani.
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 I dated a Italian girl named Aldhani one time.
I dated an Aldelian girl named Italia.
I dated a Twi'lek from Aldhani.
I wanted to not laugh at that. but
We're
I did.
gonna talk a little bit about
Just encouraging us.
It didn't work out. She was a rebel. I was, part of the system.
Part of the system.
Spoke in the Imperial wheel.
Imperial Science Officer Brandon Hanna.
You gotta make a living somehow,
We're gonna talk a little bit about James Earl Jones. We're gonna talk about Andor flashbacks, what we think about him.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about Deadpool 3,
Why not?
and we don't have
We're
much
going to
else.
dissect the newest episode of She-Hulk.
I didn't see it.
No, I
Actually,
haven't
did
seen it.
I?
I'm just
Yes, I
kidding.
did. And
I don't
guess
know.
it was
Have I?
Kind of forgettable. But,
The wedding one?
Yeah, I didn't
Oh,
see
the
it.
wedding one.
Let's
that's
not
right.
bury the lead here. I'm still cancer-free.
Hey!
Yay!
Let me tell you something. Imagine your worst day you've ever had, and then imagine like the Truman Show. You go 2 years later and relive it beat for beat, almost exactly the same. The same nurses were there that recognized me. The same doctors, same waiting chair, same everything. It was a very hectic day. It was a colonoscopy, my checkup, first one I had since my cancer surgery. Boom! Except I had an alternate ending this time. Instead of the rebels dying at the end. Never mind, that doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I do not have cancer. It was an alternate ending, and it was a better ending than the last time. But crazy. If you could ever just try to imagine like what the worst day you ever had, and then going into a situation where everybody's there again, and it's almost like deja vu. It was crazy. But
all the same doctors and everything.
it was literally the nurse
Is it
recognized
like
me.
it's like the rehearsal on HBO? Did you? Any of you guys watch the rehearsal? On
No.
HBO?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dude, I've heard of that show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
same thing. Like it was bizarre. I refused to sit in the same chair, the waiting room chair. I was like, no, I ain't gonna do that. But it was at the same time. Everything was exactly the same, except the ending where when I came to and they said that I didn't have cancer. So
That's a good part.
yeah. So that's good. And yeah, so I'm just updating everybody, especially when the Schmodown goes away. Update everybody here on how I'm doing because I think it's still important to raise awareness, and we might even do something in that vein for later. We're holding off on announcing that right now. But
Which brings us to today's sponsor,
yes,
colonoscopies.
colonoscopies.
Get yourself checked.
Yeah.
Take it from
Colonoscopy
Take it from us.
stew.
Colonoscopies.
Get your
we
butt
enjoy
checked.
it more than you do.
check your holes.
Yes,
All right.
definitely.
What else?
Well, I
personal news with you guys.
Kevin was talking about the alternate ending, and I thought, would that be like to Rogue One, the Vader hallway scene, and the guy with the plans, and he's like, take it. What if it's like he like turned the tables on Vader, and it was like that meme where that old guy's like, call an ambulance, but not for me. And he shoots Vader in the face.
Yes, and then Vader dies. That's the alternate
Yeah.
ending.
That'd be great.
Sorry, that was like.
Slam that.
Sorry, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, Frank and I are the only ones
Just-
monitoring this.
Frank was ready to move on, and I was
poppers.
like, no.
Listen,
I've got a poorly thought out joke
look
here.
Look at my face. It's so aerodynamically sound. If I wear headphones, it throws the whole thing off.
You get earbuds, bro.
He just
I don't do
snapped
earbuds
like,
unless I'm running.
Luthen
No, Airbud
guy.
is a dog. You know, there's no rule that a dog can't join the Empire.
Is that a fact?
Yeah.
Wow. There's no.
You know what?
rule
I
that
heard.
says a
I
dog-
heard being enlisting is really hard. It's really rough on them.
Oh Jesus. All right.
Okay, I think it's just whoever sits in this seat because Brandon was here last.
Yeah, that's true.
There's something about these. Can we talk about these chairs real quick? Let me
Yeah.
tell you something. Okay. This is why you don't show up to the recording early or on time. You come late because we show up, right? I bring beer. I'm like, hey, I got beer. Oh, cool. I can catch up with Brandon and Hanna. Out comes this guy, and he's like, hey, I got a little thing for you. We got to get these new chairs for the show. Well, they're not new. And he sent us to the back to clean them. And boy, let me tell you, Hanna, I thought they smelled bad on the outside.
They did.
They did. And look,
Did you cut-
We killed all the spiders.
Did
we killed
you,
At
spiders.
least 3 spiders.
I'm so sorry you had to do a little work
Acromantulas,
while I set
if
up
you will.
I bet you
everything else.
Knapsack and Scrimshaw don't have to do that for their show, huh?
Ha.
I stole that joke from Brandon. That was a
Why
good
would
joke.
you do that?
I
It was a funny joke.
I was trying to
I
give
was
him.
waiting for you to
I was
say
trying
it.
to give him credit. He beat cancer. You know.
When you beat cancer, you're allowed to steal jokes, guy.
Wow.
But yeah, these chairs are new and
Steal
improved.
jokes. He tried to steal my wife.
Call back. Let's flash back to last episode. Okay.
Yeah, Frank, cut that in.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Totally
back.
woke, though.
And back.
Great.
Right, we're back.
That's
We're
a
back.
TikTok.
But yeah, these
There's a
chairs are
TikTok.
nice. There might be a spider crawling up one of our asses during the episode. So
Oh, I thought that was your hand.
yeah,
Don't look at me like that. Okay, so
you should be so lucky.
A few weeks ago, I was at your place,
Oh yeah.
and you have the Oculus,
Oh dude.
and
Or they like to call it the MetaQuest 2 now.
or whatever.
Oculus.
Right, yeah, and
What can I say?
you have
This is the only guy that plays VR and actually gets injured
yeah. Okay.
playing VR.
All right,
Injured.
I was going to skip over that one and right to the Vader Immortal, but you go ahead and tell that story.
Oh no, yeah, we could do that too. We played Vader Immortal, and it's the most amazing thing ever. You turn on your lightsaber, and the thing vibrates your hand. It has weight to it. You feel like you're swinging
Yeah,
a
do that.
lightsaber.
You
And
keep
by the
doing
way,
that, yeah.
he was way better. He was way better at lightsaber training than I was.
Oh, I was a natural.
Oh, he's a natural.
natural.
He was like Dark Maul. Yeah, Anakin in there. You knew who I was like? I was like one of those kids from the Clone Wars.
Yeah, he was the kid that Anakin
I was a little
slices. Yeah.
Master Skywalker.
Master Skywalker.
There's
There's too many of them. That's
What
how
are
I
we
was. I
going
was
to
so
do?
bad. But-
Again with no one having monitor on, Brandon's doing the sound effects over there, and it just reminds me of 3PO telling the Ewoks, "Rockatosh,
Tato Vader.
So this. So we play a little Vader Immortal, and that's great. And we're actually going to deep dive into that, and we'll start reviewing the game once the
And we're
Andor
gonna
is
figure
done.
out how to like record that, air that, and because it's a ton of fun. If you've ever played it, you know. But I think it's also a ton of fun to share like that experience, and hopefully like all four of us will play that, and then we'll see who's the best one.
You know, I heard-
Yeah, I'll try. I'm gonna
Nooch
practice
Vader.
every
That's
day.
what he said.
Nooch Vader.
I learned that from Adam Witt.
If we, I think there's a way we can do that live.
Oh yeah.
Possibly, yeah.
But let's talk about how my friend, my
right, go ahead.
highly
Go ahead.
uncoordinated athletic friend here injured himself. I literally thought we were going to go to the hospital. It was before Sabrina's
It
party.
wasn't that.
It was her birthday. Shout out to Sabrina. Happy belated, even though we were there for your party. We were right. Was it before that?
Yeah, we were all there.
Why don't you say happy belated to my mom too?
Yeah, happy belated to everybody. Happy belated to everybody
While you're
out
at
there.
it. Yeah.
So there's a game called Walk the Plank, and it's less a game and more just a VR experience where you literally on with the headset. You have your whole floor laid out, and you set up how long the plank is. Like literally, you paint it on the ground in the VR space, right? So you paint it, and then it will plop a plank on there. Then in the VR, you turn it on, and all of a sudden you're at the street. And if you've ever done VR, you know how involved it is. You
And how
literally,
real.
how real it
It
feels.
like messes with your mind, bro.
So you're at the bottom floor, and you look up, and there's this tall building. You get in an elevator. The elevator shuts the door. You press the button, and then you wait there, and it actually goes up. And then when it opens, now you see that plank that she lined up on the ground sitting there. But you're now like 50 stories above, and the level of vertigo and the height.
It feels so real.
Your
I
legs
can't
wobble.
even- It's
you
ridiculous.
stand on the plank, and basically you go down at the end of a plank.
I didn't even want to walk out of the fake elevator.
He was freaking out. He was like, "No, dude, this is insane."
It's
Because like,
insane. It really is. I'm
Yeah.
not even exaggerating.
yeah,
Like-
your body, you keep telling yourself. So basically,
Your brain is like.
you keep saying,
Yeah.
I'm in my living room, right? And you're on this plank. But meanwhile, your brain is telling you, because it is seen, like you could hold a donut up there. They have like a CGI donut, and you could let it go, and you see the donut just fall. And if you fall off the plank,
what kind of donut is it?
it's sprinkled with pink
Can I get
frosting
a
sprinkled.
Boston cream donut?
Probably. Yeah.
Ooh, those
and
are
a
my
bear
favorite.
claw. And a bear claw. Why am I?
those your
Why am I
I
doing
think
George
they're my
Lucas
favorite,
with the bear
yeah.
claw? Anyways,
Pretty good.
So
pretty good.
basically, he wasn't there
Better
when we
than
were
Boston
first playing it,
cream
and we were
pie.
like, you jump off the plank, and if you jump off the plank, it actually shows you fall, and then you hit the. It's a really surreal feeling, and you fall. So what you say is, hey, okay, step off the plank or jump off the plank, and then to illustrate, you would just do that, and then jump off the plank, watch the animation of you fall. So he's in front, and he's in my living room, and we're like, jump off the plank, Frank.
And I'm like, I
That
can't
sounds like
do
a
it.
rhyme.
I
It's
can't
Dr.
do
Seuss.
it. I can't do it.
He's like, I can't do
And
it.
so then I build it up in my mind. Like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it.
I'm in the kitchen on the other side of this kitchen table, and this guy doesn't just do this. No, he says, okay, and then dives head first slams. Sorry, pee popping. Slams into the kitchen counter, knocks over 2 beers all over me on the other side of the kitchen thing. But from my angle, it looks like he literally face planted onto the marble wall, choppy, like all of his teeth are all over. I thought he was dead. But he literally jumped up. So instead of doing this, he run and then jumped and then slammed just into the kitchen.
Because I for whatever, my brain was like, I took a really big step forward, and when I did that, it was so real that I felt like I was actually falling.
Yeah.
And so like I just kept moving forward and downward, and it just the countertop hit my chest so hard I lost breath. I had a bruise for like a week.
I thought he was dead. I literally looked over and I was like, "Oh my god, we gotta go to the hospital."
It's very funny, and I wish
that was on camera. Yeah.
How did none of us film it? We just had no idea because like it's not that interesting if you could do that.
Yeah, no one else
didn't
has
know
ever
he was gonna head dive into the kitchen counter.
That was.
Another
It
happy
could have been a lot
landing.
worse. So it was a funny story that we could tell. It could have been a lot worse if you landed on your face, bro,
boy.
like losing all your teeth. But yeah, so we'll touch more base. There's so much Star Wars content actually for VR. There's cool VR experiences on YouTube and stuff, and I'd like to get into that, especially when we have more time free in between shows.
I'd love to set you up on Squadrons with the VR.
Squadrons.
Oh yeah, I would definitely do
Because
that.
Squadrons is such a bitchin' looking game.
And it begs. And I was at Disneyland with my family last weekend, and I really with a friend who is all into Squadrons on VR, and I asked him afterwards because we did the Millennium Falcon ride, and I was like, when you're on a ride like the Millennium Falcon, how does it compare to like Squadrons in VR? Because like he has a chair.
I think it's
in
better.
VR where it vibrates and he was like VR is better than Falcon. Look, you're sitting on the Falcon. It's all real and stuff.
But
VR, he's like, there's something about VR. You literally feel like you're there. So he said that the VR experience was better than the Falcon experience at Disneyland.
I don't need the motion chair. There's something about the Falcon that just feels so fake to me at Galaxy's Edge.
Interesting, really.
I think it's the light up button, like it's the ride stuff, right?
And you're on there with like some aunt and an aunt and Teresa who you don't know and another family.
Right.
Yeah.
And
is this a USS Enterprise?
I will report back. The funnest I ever had was with Frank, and I even texted him like, "There's no one like flying around the galaxy with you, pal."
That's right.
But I will say, this little girl flew. She was the pilot because I did single rider. Because at this point it was with my wife, and I was like, "We'll be right back." Because when you do single rider, you're there in and out in 5 minutes. So I go single rider. So you're always in the engineer spot, and this little girl didn't know anything, but just did this, and it was the most bumpy, crazy ride ever. Like it was the most.
I think this was the story we told the first episode. Same thing with me.
Oh,
Yeah.
you had the same thing, and I thought it was more fun that way because, like, when you're a good pilot, like it's more smooth. This chick was just like, I don't care, I don't know what I'm doing. So yeah.
And towards the end, did she turn around and go, "Not worry, we're still flying half a shift."
No,
Jesus.
she didn't. She didn't.
Oh.
Reports indicate.
Well, let's okay. So we got
But
two.
you're okay now?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know we
Listen.
could touch Frank on this.
Yeah, we can touch it.
Okay.
Who's the most? Yeah.
Only
Anyways,
look,
it's called
no
Walk
touch.
the Plank. If you
Only
have
look, no
if you have a
touch.
MetaQuest 2, get Walk the Plank. It's like $9, and it's a great party
I
kind of
needed
game.
some med.
You know,
doc is what I needed.
MetaQuest. He was really good at basketball, wasn't he?
I think it's Meta World Peace.
Oh, my bad.
You want to play?
That's why we're talking Star Wars.
Yeah. All right. Great. Let's. So we only got 2 news stories on the docket today.
That was one of them.
And one of them's not. Well, no.
One of them was my health status.
That was
And we didn't get
Frank's
that.
health status. Well, those were the life.
Yeah, we have the
news.
2 health scares.
Yeah. Kevin's.
Colonoscopy and his near-death experience.
Near fake death experience.
I don't think
Injure
I've
yourself
taken poop
doing
today,
VR.
so I'm a little worried about that.
What'd you say?
He said he didn't poop today, and he's a little worried about
Oh,
that.
yeah. poop today.
Yeah.
Is that ring light really doing anything? I'm so
no.
curious.
It
I feel like if you
absolutely
turn
is.
it on and off,
That's
nothing
the
happens
ring
to
of
us.
what's it called?
Kafrine.
Kafrine.
Why do you?
I knew that.
What is that? What are you?
I'm fired up. I don't know.
just looking for any kind of life.
That was inspired by Blade Runner, right, Frank?
Yeah.
Hey, is there? Oh, we forgot to rename the news
James
segment.
Earl
We gotta come up
Jones.
with a new news name.
This one is.
the Star Wars news ticker.
All right.
Yeah.
It's
Like
the
60
Star Wars
minutes.
news segment's gonna always have a new name every week, so we forgot
How's
to
that
write
sound,
one.
Frank?
Uh,
That's better. Damn it.
It's great.
look, really the only big one. James Earl Jones has officially retired from the role of Darth Vader.
The voice.
Yeah, right. Period. I don't think he's going to do any Darth Vader.
No, he's actually going to be in the suit.
Oh, he's
He's walking around Disney right now.
9-year-old
Week.
James Earl
He's
Jones.
terrifying
walking around
children, I
the
heard.
suit. So James Earl Jones is officially retired from voicing Darth Vader. They're going to transition it entirely to AI generated voice.
Good. I there was a lot of like.
And he signed off on it, by the way.
He signed off.
Yeah, Matt Wood came to him, said like, "Hey, Roger, this is how we
there was
set up."
Friend of the podcast. I like saying that. I feel like I'm on a show when I say that.
Friend of the podcast, James Earl
John
Jones.
Hoey had a debate with. Did you see it with
Bibbs.
William Bibbiani, and it was interesting.
Oh my god.
And Bibbiani was talking, and Bibbiani was definitely talking about like the character, new actors bring something new and performances and stuff like that. And he was trying to compare it to like, imagine if there was not a new Joker, and then rightfully so, Hoey was saying, well, look, this is the same continuity. Like, it's not like you're telling a new story or a reboot. I don't think they'll ever reboot Star Wars. So I think some people really do think that maybe it's not a good idea to keep that AI. What's going on?
We're having some audio. Our monitoring. Look,
but what I was saying back to that point is, what do you guys think? For me, I like keeping the voice. I know he had a different voice in the Star Killer games, or not. I'm sorry, in Fallen Order.
Did he?
Yeah.
In Fallen Order.
Force Unleashed?
And maybe Force Unleashed. And there's this one guy that does... Force Unleashed? There's this one guy that does a good impersonation of him, but he's doing an impersonation of James Earl Jones doing Vader. And if they can just do the AI of Vader... And in fact, Vader didn't even sound like James Earl Jones in Rogue One because, he's getting older. And if they had that AI technology...
you hear the age.
Well, I do want to...
I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
To play devil's advocate, I don't think Luke sounded like Luke in...
Mandalorian?
Book of Boba Fett. Yeah. Which that was all AI. I didn't think it sounded anything like Mark Hamill.
Close.
It was close.
It might just work better for different types of voices. The technology just works for a better type of
Right,
voices right now.
because-
I think this was Vader. Like, I think it's
Yeah,
okay
plus
for
plus
Vader
it's
to
also
be...
like a mechanized voice
Right.
as well. So you could,
Well, and the other thing, too, I think we already had the AI going for Obi-Wan. I don't think it was James Earl Jones. Yeah.
no, 100% was.
So...
That's why it sounded so good.
Do you think
It sounded great,
when
yeah.
the Emperor set up that voice equipment? Do you think that he was like, you know what, Anakin's voice was kind of wimpy. Like, let's give him a real darker, like deeper voice.
Sand.
You know, like he wants. I want to hear James. If James Earl Jones was my uncle, I swear I would get him to record the lines from Attack of the Clones. Could you imagine Darth Vader saying, "I hate sand. It's coarse. It's irritating. It gets everywhere." But it was James Earl Jones's voice. Use the AI for that. Let's redo Attack of the Clones with James Earl Jones.
Wait, no, I've thought about this before because people are like, "Oh, Vader's so cool," and like Anakin's like so not cool. But like, if you like rewatch, like I think especially Return of the Jedi through the lens of pretend that's like Hayden's voice saying all those lines, you'd be like, "Wow, that's kind of bad."
Your sister. Your thoughts betray you. Your sister.
Your thoughts betray you, her too. If you will not turn to the dark side, perhaps she will.
That's what someone needs to do. Do AI. Do Hayden Christensen.
If you're not
all
with
of Vader's
me,
voice.
you're against me.
But imagine Vader saying that. If you're not with me,
Right.
you're
From my
enemy.
Right. It would be great. That's the thing. The way the lines are written, especially in Revenge of the Sith, they're not bad. The problem is they're not written for Hayden. They're written for Darth Vader. And
Except the sand line. That was written for nobody.
But if Vader
Imagine
said it,
Leonardo
it would sound
DiCaprio
cool.
I hate sand. It's coarse and it's rough.
coarse.
You know what? There's a couple
and
voice actors
irritating.
on the KOTOR Discord that do really good
it
impersonations.
gets everywhere.
Let me see if I can get them to do a good Vader saying those Anakin lines. I'll see about that.
Because Mike is just hiding your face, bro.
Oh,
I've been
we
I was
wanna-
trying to
hiding
hide his face.
my worst feature.
We want to see that beautiful face of yours.
It's like the Howard Stern show.
The only other news story, kind of not really a news story, just a follow up to something we talked about last week. I think this came out in an episode guide or something. Andor, the flashbacks for Andor are set prior to the Clone Wars, so
Yes.
that's why that symbol is there.
Ha,
It's not a
take that one guy in the
Confederacy of Independent
comments.
Systems symbol. It's just similar.
It's similar. And
Which-
like because there was the Separatist crisis that preceded the Clone Wars.
Well, the other thing as well, it could be whatever that group is could have something to do with the formation of the Separatists.
Yeah.
Which kind of, I actually, I'm going to bridge this awkwardly into our episode review. So, if you haven't seen Andor episode 4, now's your time, turn away. Why are you fucking watching this in the first place?
No, just say
Brandon
And if-
Hanna will hold his hand up
gets
in the
spoiled.
air the entire time we talk about the
Yeah,
show.
and you know
then
what?
Put
And
it
if,
down
and
when
here's
it's
the
done,
thing:
right?
if you're
my
not,
hands up in the air sometimes when we're talking about the spoilers.
Okay.
and you know what?
I
If you're
regret
an
that
audio listener, if you're an audio listener and you're not watching and you can't see Brandon's hands up,
Do we have audio
just
listeners?
stop. Just stop. Just if you're watching this on a podcatcher or something, how? First off,
Yeah,
we don't
if
air
You're
it
watching
there.
this in your pod racer.
Check us out on Podbean.
So, so this episode,
fast,
what
very
I want to kind of get
dangerous.
into, this episode didn't have flashbacks,
Right.
which personally I was kind of hoping the flashbacks would go for the whole series, and a question has come up. I've seen a couple people bring it up. Why is this show called Andor? Like, acting like this show's not about Andor. I think that that's the right name for this. I think it should be called Andor. He's our central character. We're following his growth as an agent of the rebellion.
What else do you call it?
Rise of the Rebellion or something dumb, right? I don't know.
That sounds like a card game or something.
It sounds like a card game or like,
Or an expansion pack for Galaxies.
yeah.
Star
yeah.
Wars Rise of the Rebellion. Coming soon to
PSP and Nintendo DS.
And if we are getting into this review, I would say that Andor in this episode did such good acting. Diego Luna, did such good acting because he didn't speak a lot in the scenes where he was with and we'll get into I'm sure you'll get there, but he was allowing the other people to it was his interaction with them, and we were meeting him through his eyes, and you see through his eyes, through his absence almost of performance and talking, he was
he was
letting
performing
these.
for
He was
sure.
We let
performing,
every
well,
other-
yeah,
yeah.
I just mean that
yeah.
his performance was enhancing everyone around him because he was that walk up and just the tenseness when he meets the group Avalanche, as I would like to call it. They remind me of Avalanche from Final Fantasy VII.
Before we get into that, I do want to talk about the flashbacks here, right? Because I had kind of expected us to get a little bit of building up Andor's story on, how he was fighting them since he was 6. What is the story on those people there? What was the story on I can't ever remember.
Kenari?
Kenari. But I think you're gonna have plenty of time. I think.
Yeah,
it's a
I'm hoping
marathon, not a
I'm
sprint.
hoping that this is a 1 episode gap from the flashbacks.
There are other scenes that we've seen in trailers that we have not seen from
that are flashbacks.
Yeah, I think
so because for me, I kind of liked I know Brandon.
might be, I don't know.
I know
Yeah,
Brandon
I saw,
can.
like that scene with the Boga Varactals.
I know Brandon will
attacking
agree with
the
this.
kid.
I was kind of excited for a Lost style setup with the flashbacks telling his life story. Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I just watched a 9-hour retrospective on Lost.
Oh my God.
9 hours?
Yeah, it's great.
You're tired. You must be tired.
It only covered the first 3 seasons.
Jesus.
Is there another 9 hours for the next 3 seasons?
I don't know. He hasn't made it yet.
What?
So, yeah, I know.
Talk about
But
a
what do you guys
half-ass
think?
in
Do
it.
you hope the flashbacks return? Do you hope that continues to be a conceit of the series?
I think it should be used when they need to use it, and if
Okay.
they're trying to. I
Well-
think when you look in the first 3 episodes, it's drawing these parallels, right? So, and I think when you get to this episode, they were drawing parallels between what's this little rebellion cell doing, and in terms of what the ISB is doing on Coruscant. So they're going back and
informs
forth
the
that
story.
way.
We're getting- yeah, we're
And
getting
so I
more
think
point of views.
When maybe if we get to the next 3 after the last or the last third, when you start the last half of the series, whatever, maybe they get more into some of the. I suspect the last 3 episodes will have flashbacks.
I think
to
they'll
kind of
come
round
back.
out
I think
the season.
We ran out of time last week, but we didn't talk about it. I know you and I shared the same opinion because I saw you on a Twitter thread talking about it, but it really moved me was the way they intercut the flashback with Andor leaving with Luthen and him leaving with his new surrogate Marva and Clem, actually. Mavra and Clem. That's the name of the dad. That's why he named himself Clem.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
That's why he named him Clem.
I was when he.
The more you know.
Okay,
Star.
so when he had
know.
said Clem, I went, "Why is that name familiar?"
Because it was his adopted father.
Yeah, okay.
My Clementine.
Which just tells you like the kind of relationship or at least reverence he has
For-
for
well, we
Clem,
are-
at least.
And
'Cause
imagine
we-
when Luthen talks about how he saw him hung in
Right.
the square
Yeah.
and like how that got to him. But
So there's obviously more there, and I'm sure we'll get flashbacks.
exactly, because
with
that's
that.
what I was saying is is the way it informed the
yeah.
story, where they intercut with them both leaving and how it was
Yeah.
big moments of his life. I think there's going to be other big moments as he gets more into the rebellion and into how he becomes in Rogue One. We will see how his flashbacks will inform that, about his early time with Mavra and all that. So.
Yeah, I hope we get flashbacks of him in the Clone Wars fighting for the Separatists. I know in the trailer we see clone troopers, right?
Right. So
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
the big.
yeah,
That's
I'm
what I
excited
was
for that.
curious about. I had kind of thought that part of the series would be set in the early days of the Galactic Empire, and we'd see clone troopers as part of that transition as stormtroopers. Clearly, that's not the case. We know the time period now a lot better. We knew it.
Because like even in Rebels, like those clone troopers were well phased out.
Right, but in the Bad Batch, we see.
I mean, that's true.
Yeah, so in the Bad Batch, we do still see
There's,
some.
yeah, just like little pockets, I
Yeah.
guess. Though, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about. Actually, Kevin, why don't you take this one because you've
Go ahead.
got all your notes.
Yeah, no.
Well, I just want if we're gonna talk about Luthen, or
yeah, I would like to open with that. Like the scene, Luthen. Okay, I gotta say something. I think Luthen is slowly becoming one of my favorite Star Wars characters of all time. Like, I am so invested in him, and jumping ahead in and out of this episode, but like that first conversation he has another just insane conversation, which you could argue there's one or two banger of lines there that could go in the Star Wars mythos, but like he is so. Just everything that he says has such reverence to me. And then Stellan Skarsgård is such a great actor that he could turn and I know we're jumping ahead in the story, but when he puts on the costume and becomes the art dealer or the
when he does
stolen-
that little sachet in the hallway.
yeah, he's
the
trying to
little-
put himself
Like, he's
into
like-
that.
get into character.
He's
and
gotta
just
get into
like,
character. I'm like,
gotta play this role, which is really just
so good.
That was
It
me
also
before the
just-
podcast started rolling.
That's what we did
it's
before.
such it really highlights throughout the entire every character we've met is playing a role.
Yes.
they're putting on a face. They're always telling different backstories. Like when Cassian's talking to Luthen in there, he's like, "I was on Minband for when I was 16."
and he's
for
like,
2 years.
he's like, you were a cook.
yeah, but that's the lie that Cassian's been telling
Right.
his whole life, and now Luthen knows the truth.
Yeah.
And so like
Do you think he cooked potatoes for Han Solo's regiment?
Yeah, I was
So
actually kind of
this
thinking
is-
about it. So the timeline
like-
does add. The timeline would add up where he would have been most likely on Minban the same time as.
That's what I was. I think I
Solo.
was talking with you beforehand when you got
Yeah.
here. I was trying to figure out. Well, if you know that when Solo, when Han is on Minband, that's like 10 BBY, and Cassian says he's 16 when he's fighting on Minband, but there's could be many different battles of Minband.
Well,
so,
yeah, Minban is kind of a weird, a weird setup. But he also said he was one of only 50 people to get out alive.
right.
But yeah, the timeline's kind of weird. I don't know canonically how old Cassian is, which does
So-
kind of.
I was doing some of the math, and I was like, so he's either when he in Rogue One, based on a couple of things I can find on Wikipedia of like referencing battles on Minban, he's either 26 around 26 when he dies in Rogue One, which seems kind of
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
right, or he's either 38, which would be a
He looks
really
great for
stretch.
38.
right? Which,
Well,
which
what
a lot of
what I
Hispanic
will
people do
what I
look
will
pretty
say
good
what I
for, like,
That's yeah.
so like
what I will say is that if he's probably like, let's say he's 6 in that flashback, right? Let's put it at give it a round number. We know he's been fighting this war since he was 6. Let's say that flashback is when he's 6. That would probably be what 20. No, that'd be
24
BBY.
because that's the start of the
is,
Separatist
is
Crisis.
23
and it's 2
BBY.
years before the Clone Wars start.
Okay.
So if those guys are wearing the CIS like patch, maybe that's the start of the Separatist Crisis,
Right.
which would be around 24 BBY.
Right. So yeah. So if he's 24 BBY, he's probably 6 there. Yeah. So maybe like 32.
I was told there wouldn't be math on this show.
No, they would be around 26 in Rogue One.
I was told there'd only be
Yeah.
calculus.
26.
24
Focusing us back.
Well, no, because if he's 6,
Right.
no, because if he's 6 in that
and
scene,
24. So then
plus
my God.
24
so
is
he was-
30.
Okay, yeah.
I want to
Yeah, so
run
like,
in
that
front
might
of traffic.
be like
Yeah.
right where like that time frame.
So carry the 4 plus the 2 minus the 7.
Yeah,
And
I'm running out of
you got
fingers here.
yourself
I
a
don't know how
trash
to count.
compactor,
But
my
back
friend.
to Luthen. Luthen is slowly becoming one of my favorite characters in Star Wars lore. I've always loved Qui-Gon. I've always loved Obi-Wan. Everybody has their own trio of what their favorite three
big
are.
mythological.
Yeah, and then you have Luthen, who I'm so invested, and I know. I mean, that guy ain't living to Rogue One, so like I'm just so nervous now. Like, what's gonna happen to him?
Why do you think that?
Because he's nowhere in the battle. He's nowhere in the Galactic Civil War.
Doesn't mean anything.
What do you
That
think?
doesn't mean anything.
You think he's gonna live? So what are
well,
the
we don't-
odds?
hold
Never
on.
tell me the
Let
odds.
me-
We don't ever see Twilight Company during the movies. They exist.
And we also didn't see Kira after Solo, but there are all these.
Why are you talking about my daughters?
We don't ever see
With a Q, guy.
we don't see Hera in the original trilogy,
Right,
but she's still fighting in the
Return of
rebellion.
the
She's
Jedi,
mentioned
right?
by name in Rogue One.
Guys,
no,
okay.
hold on.
All right,
hold on. Barely.
Let's do
But,
the odds.
come on.
No way Luthen survives
I
this
think
series.
the odds are against him.
I think the odds. I think the odds from a storytelling convention. I think Luthen will die in the course of the series.
This season,
I think.
I think he's the season 1 kill. Like, and it's
I think it's a-
season finale.
or like
death.
or always
He's a season finale death to me.
or like the death the episode before the season
And then
finale.
he
Breaking Bad
becomes-
would always have like
Right,
He
right.
becomes K2SO, like General Grievous style.
Oh,
Yeah.
speaking of.
That's it. It's K2SO.
Speaking
Okay.
of, I saw a weird theory that the memory chip from B2 Emo could be put into K2.
Oh, that's too convenient.
I don't know. The
No,
personalities are kind of the same. They have
No way.
they have kind of the same sarcastic like you're being rescued. Like I could totally see B2 Emo saying
Maybe.
that.
I think maybe in the same way that like, what's her name is part of the
L3,
Falcon.
yeah.
L3 is part of the Falcon. Maybe.
Don't
like
you
in
love that
Yeah,
line?
that's what I.
Don't you love that line in
especially-
Empire Strikes Back when 3PO is like, "Oh, the ship has the most peculiar dialect,"
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is basically
well,
a reference.
but especially because we see B2,
Now it is.
we see B2 kind of having these failing power reserves and
Yeah.
like, and that's what's causing his memory issues. Well, if I was Cassian, and I get my hands on an Imperial security droid, I'd go, I like this droid better, but he'd work great in this droid, right?
Maybe, yeah.
We
It's
know,
Good-
we
a
know that
new engine in a.
we also know that Cassian was a tactics and analytics specialist, but that doesn't track with what we see those droids function as in canon. In canon, those droids function basically as security enforcers. B2 Emo, when we see him in that one flashback we see him in, he is kind of doing an analytic. Like the question is, hey, what's this worth? And he quickly asks, do you mean on the black market or like legit selling?
Right.
Cool theory. But
Yeah.
I kind of hope for a different origin for K2SO and his relationship because I'd like to see how they met. Although it would be very cool to tie it all together.
Well, the one thing that kind of fails that is the fact that why wouldn't he just call it K2SO, or why wouldn't he just call
like hey B2, yeah,
call him
B2.
B2,
Yeah.
right?
But that's why I'm saying you can have a remnant of B2 part of K2, but he's still
Right.
K2.
B2,
But
K2,
but I
M&E-M-O.
I doubt all of that, and I think K2 is just going to be an Imperial
Maybe.
security.
Yeah,
that's
I'm not one for
and
that.
And K2's going to be like one of many Imperial.
Well, he is. He
Right.
absolutely is, but
So-
he doesn't necessarily match what we see from the other. But granted, Cassian reprogrammed him, right? Like
Right. So he
that,
could. That's his own. That's his own.
So
flair for it.
yeah, I think it would be a nice touch to see him integrate some part
Pop-Tart, dude.
I mean, we never know what happens to B2. Maybe he doesn't want B2 to be a part of the rebellion. So
Sure.
like, go off and help these people on this planet and serve them or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's
B2 is
a lot
going to
to
go
do.
off with Luthen and they're going to survive and then show up in the Mandalorian season 5.
Honestly, I would not also be surprised if Luthen does survive because he seems like the type of character in this universe to know how to lay low and operate
Right.
from the shadows,
and not necessarily
and like
not-
he's doing with.
he wouldn't be on Yavin. He would be
right. He'd be
Where?
on another.
Come
He'd be on
Yeah,
Coruscant.
but like
The entire
he's
planet's
gotta
one
die.
big
He's got to
city.
die to serve the
I think he will,
Andor
but
purpose.
but he's also the type of character that could operate from the shadows and move parts that way, like the way he's
So
doing
Frank,
right now.
tell me, the last time you saw your mom when you visited, when she opened the door, did she slap you in the face?
No, she cried.
That's my segue there. What did you guys think of that scene? He was only in one scene for the show.
no. He was in two scenes. He was
scenes?
because there was
Yeah.
a scene
Oh, the
where
three when he gets his
Yeah,
everything's taken away. Did you see they were clearing off the? There was like the space age version
Yeah.
of Chinese food or something.
well,
It was
which
like-
we see that in episode 2 as
Yeah.
well.
Oh, really?
One of
I
the
didn't
one of
notice
the
that.
one of the
Eating
techs
the
at the
noodles.
computer's
I
eating
wonder
it,
what that tastes
and
like.
it's
Blue
just
needles.
all it is noodles with like some blue sauce on it.
It's blue as the Star Wars
Blue
tartar
noodles and a
sauce
cup of
choice.
calf. Dude.
Yeah. So Lieutenant Blevin,
Yeah.
which Blevin is an interesting Star Wars name.
Jay Blood.
just-
Rhymes with Kevin.
It's just Kevin with a B.
And an L with an L, too.
Yeah. Well,
Blevin Smets.
L330 Blevin.
L330 Blevin. Lieutenant Blevin is firing the
Yeah, dude.
Corsac.
Like y'all messed up, and now the Imperials have to take over. And goodbye to your corporate
He's like,
security
it's
force.
like, don't worry, no one's gonna replace you because we're disbanding the whole thing.
yeah.
yeah.
On the bright side, no one's replacing you. You're just all
That was a good
fired. And then I do appreciate the light touch of behind the like security glass. We do see a stormtrooper loitering around. But yeah, that was a nice scene. I like all the ISB stuff we get this episode.
Yeah.
By the way, the mom actress is the same actress for you Potterheads that played Mrs. Fig.
Slow down.
Mrs. Fig. Maybe it's a cross.
One of my
universe.
favorite fruits,
Wow.
Is the fig?
the fig.
The fig.
Fig
you-
Newtons. You like fig?
Yeah,
You're a
you like
Fig
Fig
Newton guy.
I like they're full of gluten. But,
Figgy Newton.
Fig Newton's full of glutens.
Newton
yeah, that was an
gluten from the
interesting
Newton.
dynamic.
No
I
other better way
wonder-
to get gluten than from the Newton.
I wonder if she's like what kind of present if she's one of those like career moms that like forced him to go down a certain path.
The opposite.
No, I mean for him, I feel like
But he wanted to be a cop.
yeah, like I wonder what part does she play in his life? Because slapping him in the face, like
She's glad that he is home, but she's upset that he went and joined this corporate security force.
Yeah,
you
she's
think
like-
it's that? I think
Yes.
she's upset he got fired, and she
No.
No.
like,
I think
I think
she
she's
was
a lot
like
worse than we think.
I think she
she's-
was like, "Oh, Cyril, I wish you would have become a space doctor instead of a corporate cop."
Well, this will be interesting as we get forward because I got the vibe more that she's pissed that she's glad that she got back, but she slapped him in the face because she was like, "How dare you get fired?" Like she might be some crazy
Slap at the-
career.
well, it could
like crazy
It could
mom,
also be. It could also be a matter.
like soccer mom, right?
Well,
you missed the ball.
The other
I'm gonna slap
question:
you.
she was dressed pretty. She was dressed in the way that we would see someone like when you're going from a costuming standpoint, right?
Okay.
Like she had gold jewelry on, she had a nice outfit on. She was dressed pretty well. They
Well,
definitely set up that like I called it a hab block in my
Yeah,
Yeah.
it didn't.
in my notes. Like it wasn't a nice apartment, but it's definitely like you could see this is. I don't know if that's part of the corporate sector, but if it is, like that very much fits the Blade Runner theme, the cyberpunk theme of like, hey, there's these overcrowded tenements, right? And you're so close to your neighbors, you see her shout at the other neighbor, like, what are you looking at?
When you look at other places, or I guess other shows where we've seen Coruscant, when you look at like the last 4 episodes of, or the last season of Clone Wars, right? We're experiencing like the underworld of Coruscant,
Right.
You know, if the lower you go, that's the status of your class is the lower and lower,
Right.
And so while if she's not down there and you're up where you can
But-
get sunlight and stuff, you're doing
Is
all
that
right.
Coruscant?
It's so that's not
Yeah, they were
that's
on
not
Coruscant.
Coruscant.
I don't.
What?
I don't
That was
think it
Coruscant.
I didn't think that was Coruscant.
That's Coruscant.
Okay,
Coruscant, yeah.
maybe.
What's the other
That's
planet?
No, that's Coruscant.
That's Coruscant,
It was
right?
part of the Coruscant. Yeah, because
Yeah.
they would have had
They
another
would've had
lower. They have
another-
lower thirds for all of
Yeah.
the
But they
planets.
cut to the office that was on. What's the name of the other planet?
Morlana 1.
Morlana 1.
Yeah.
That's what I thought it was.
But because they didn't show the Morlana 1 title card when they cut to the office.
Same
So
office.
But they cut to Coruscant and then they
the one thing is they did show
really?
like transit system, the space buses.
Yeah, where they were having ships to transition from
Right.
Hazi and Prime. Nice.
So,
little shout out there.
but that could have been
Heard
some
of that
other. That could have been some other. I mean, an ecumenopolis is not uncommon in Star Wars.
right.
So
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what role that mother plays. I guess I'm on the lone island. You guys think that she's more like a motherly, like I'm glad you're home. I think she's
Yeah.
more embarrassed because she's some part of the system, and she's the reason why he's so crazy about his
but she
trying
could,
to prove himself. It sounds
she
like
could,
he wants to prove himself.
She could also be like, because my thought
An
was
annoying soccer mom.
my thought was if it was one of the Corsac worlds, right? She could be someone who works for the corporate sector, works for Primor, the company that they're hired by, and he's just screwed up everyone's fucking lifestyle on that planet, right?
Yeah.
So his actions have made that whole sector of space now under direct Imperial control. So even if it has nothing to do with any of that,
He's actually watching.
Yeah, Frank's actually watching the scene.
the
This
show.
looks like Coruscant. I'm like
it does.
Yeah, well, it is.
It does.
And could I just say also, if you are a driver out here in LA, you have to be a pretty good driver, right? In and out of traffic, stuff like that. If you're a driver in Coruscant, like, I don't know if you've ever played like jet games, or these 3D person games, all the Rogue Squadron games. Flying under bridges is hard. They have these bridges and just cars nonchalantly going through the bridges. How many accidents do you think there are in Coruscant, like car accidents? There's like we have car accidents on the 405 and the 110 every day. There's got to be, they got to all be fatal too, right? Like
You
can't
fall to your
survive.
death.
Yeah.
You're not the fender bender.
You know, while we're bitching about LA, can
Yeah.
I bitch about how hot it is in here right now?
Yeah, oh, I'm dying.
It's so fucking hot.
Yeah.
It's hotter than the twin sons of Tatooine.
The AC's been broken on the volume.
It's hotter than a Gundark's asshole.
I bypassed the AC.
I mean, maybe it's not Coruscant, but
Interesting.
I
wish we
do
knew
think,
that.
I
that
do
we're
think
an
it's pretty
informative podcast.
yeah,
that
I
we
do.
should know that.
I do think it's pretty unclear.
No, but the flying cars,
I mean,
man. It's gotta be. It's
George Lucas had it right. The only time you know you're on Coruscant is when Rick Ali is there to tell you.
what's he
Do you
saying?
say Ali or Olie?
I said Ali.
I say Oli.
You say Oli.
You
Rick
say
Ali.
potato, I say potato. Let's call the whole thing off.
I say Rick Oli.
I say Rick Ali.
I
Hey,
would like to say while he's
let's-
still looking
let's
that
st-
up.
while he's looking that
the
up,
whole
let's-
point about the and this is the last we ever have to talk about it.
Anyways.
People talking Tony Gilroy and saying how there's no Easter eggs in Star Wars. Can we all agree that Tony Gilroy does not know what the Easter egg? He doesn't know what Hosnian Prime is. He doesn't know what Mimban is or
don't know
what
that.
Scarif is.
I
and
hear
name
he
drop.
doesn't even celebrate Easter.
Yeah, exactly. So I think in his defense, when he said there
He's
are
a
no
vegan.
cameos,
He doesn't even eat eggs.
he doesn't even know that they're cameoing half the time. He's literally like, oh, that looks good. These are just random words on a piece of paper.
Well-
but that's what. And Pablo Hidalgo somewhere in the back behind the camera, like, this is great.
He's like, oh yeah, what is that? A Gungan shield? I don't care.
Yeah, Gungan Shield. We jumped ahead
Roll
there.
the
but-
film.
Well, let's talk about let's
I will
finish
just
up.
say real quick, we are recording this before the episode guide comes out on StarWars.com, so
Right.
they may.
They may say, yeah.
They
usually they
may.
clarify.
and then we'll have to
They may
re-record this
say-
entire review.
Yeah. What we'll do, we'll clip it out, put it on Twitter, act like we're all up in arms about what planet
Hey,
is it?
we're
Ugh.
1 for 1 so far.
Yeah, we did
Sean,
get it right.
Sean
You are
was
1 for
like,
1.
"This is pre-Clone Wars." Then that one guy on TikTok is like, "No, it's not. It's
Oh,
impossible."
I didn't see. I don't.
Oh,
I
that's
don't
what it
go on
And then-
TikTok. Did
and
someone?
then
Yeah, on our
Star Wars was like, "Oh, you thought Sean was right."
Well, then I need to go back and like
Yeah.
call out that guy on TikTok.
Well, it'd be
I'm
nice
sure
about it.
he's a
It'd be
lad.
But yeah.
No, I'll be like, hey, fuck you, dude.
So yeah.
Hey, you know
enough
what?
with-
If you're listening to our podcast, just stop.
Enough with people saying there are no Easter
No,
eggs.
no,
though.
we
Like
You're
don't-
listening to your podcast.
No,
bring
just
your friends.
that.
Get
Just
them
that
to listen
one
to
guy.
it.
Just the one guy.
Just the one guy. Everyone else should keep listening.
We're not big enough
But
to
he
be
makes,
alienating.
He makes one man
fans.
feel like 10. You know,
Make one man feel like 100.
Love it.
10 men feel like 100.
10 men feel like. Was that?
Ooh,
I
10
messed
men
that
feel
up.
like
It is.
100, yeah.
But he was one guy.
Let's
so-
talk
Oh,
about the
I
big
almost messed it
mention
up.
of the show. There's a couple cool name drops like Kyber Crystal.
Heard of those.
In there, the one that I geeked out about, obviously, and you told the first
Mim-
second
Mim-
I saw him. you said-
Mimban.
Here we
Yeah.
go.
I
All right.
wanted.
Kevin
I wanted,
is a-
I wanted
Kevin-
to call and
Sit back
text you
and
guys.
relax. This one's gonna be-
Kevin
It's
is
gonna be a
a
long one.
segment.
Kevin is a Mimban maniac.
I love myself some Mimban. No, the fact that we live in a world where Stellan Skarsgård says the word Rakatan Empire.
We can say that though.
He
someone-
said Rakatan.
He said up
Yeah,
front.
he said
Fine.
Rakata.
Rakatan Uprising.
Invasion?
Invaders. He said.
Yeah, he
Rakatan
said invaders, dude.
If anyone doesn't know who the Rakatan are, they were the first ever government established in known Star Wars lore and canon. And they were leaders of the Infinite Empire, and they were great builders. They were the great builders of the age, and they would build the infinite fleets. They built the Starforge, if you're familiar with KOTOR, which the Starforge itself is something that just builds infinite ships, infinite fleets. And the dark side energy corrupted them, and they became conquerors. They became invaders, and they earned their name of invaders because they would go to planets. They would strip planets for their resources. They would wipe out. They were cruel. They would literally wipe out entire species and populations just for their empire until they finally crumbled and collapsed. So a big backstory to KOTOR, and to hear it from Stellan Skarsgård saying it is just so cool. It canonizes that. I know you said that it's already been canonized in novels or whatever. The fact that it's now live action.
Well,
is
this is
fantastic.
I will say there is. Right. So first off, I have to give a big warning. Legends content. Warning.
Put your hands up in the air.
Warning.
Yeah, Legends content. Brandon, if you can, thank you.
He only has one arm.
Does that Star Siren go?
By the way, 36,000 years before the Battle of Yavin is when the Rakatan existed.
So the Rakatan Empire or the Infinite Empire.
The Rakata Empire.
The Rakata Cheese Empire.
My favorite cheese.
They have not had an explicit...
45 minutes to make that joke.
They haven't had an explicit mention yet, but what we have had mentioned is in the Force Awakens visual guide, we do see Rakata Prime on the map, which was not their homeworld.
Lehan was their homeworld,
Thank you.
which you'd be familiar with. My KOTOR brother.
I heard he's a professional.
And if you've watched Kevin's movies, it's in there.
Have you seen my movies?
I've seen your... ding, ding, ding. And then the other thing in Rogue One, Solo, Dryden Voss has a Rakatan artifact in his collection.
But Stellan Skarsgård said it.
A fine addition.
So for all the KOTOR fans, I know I had the guys that worked on my KOTOR movies. Brandon texted me the second he saw it. Like everybody was texting me. The Instagram KOTOR trilogy was celebrating it too. It was a big victory. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know.
Brandon and I need to sit close. Nope. I need to get longer headphones.
You guys can deal with it after the show.
Yeah, I think that's something you guys got to do.
Yeah, I feel like I should be sitting closer to Frank, but we're just so deep into this, I can't move now.
I think you can totally move.
You probably should.
But it was a cool thing. There's a lot of the other stuff too in the. We could just talk about it real quick. Since it's not that central to the story.
In Skarsgård's little shop.
In his shop, there was some cool
His
things
little
that
shop
I was pointing out.
horrors.
I because I'm a nerd, I stopped and it was dissecting everything. I noticed Plo Koon. It's not his probably, but his species.
A Keldor mask.
Keldor mask was in there. You can look for that. I'll just tell you what to look for. See if you can find it yourself. That's actually fun to do. The best one that I saw, I know that people are talking about the Twi'lek
Kirkori statue idol.
Yeah, the thing that that was pretty cool. Obviously, there's the Han Solo's whip frozen in carbonite, which is in the second location.
Indiana Jones as well.
Yeah,
Han
Indiana
Solo
Jones
had a whip.
Yeah, that reminds me of
And you had pointed out it looks like the slab of carbonite behind it has the fertility idol.
Yeah, I think I might be wrong, but it's my eyes deceiving me. It looks like that could be it, or it's a skull of some sort.
It's probably just Tony Gilroy's lunch from that day.
But the one I think
put it in a mold.
The internet's freaking out a lot about. They're loving the Star Killer helmet. That's in the background. Look for that if you're familiar with the Star Killer helmet. From the games,
it's weird. I didn't catch it because they gave it like a weird head.
Spine. It looks almost samurai in nature. Yeah. And the one that I geeked out about, and I think because you like the prequels too, right?
I've heard of them.
Look for it. There is the Gungan shield, obviously not activated.
It's so funny
though.
The
Gungan shield, and by the way, Tony Gilroy does not know that there was a Gungan shield there.
It's so funny to me that like they have this like antique shop. And there's just a Gungan shield that's like 20 years old there. Like there's all this like there's a suit of Beskar. There's like this ancient warrior armor.
It was from someone like high up in the Gungan.
Hey,
it was
Captain
Tarpals.
I'm telling you right now though, if Mon Mothma was my wife,
my wife,
and she brought me home a Gungan shield as an anniversary present. What's better than that?
Hey, Sabrina, we know your birthday just passed, but when Brandon's birthday comes up
soon,
Gungan shield.
You can get an authentic Gungan shield
from Naboo.
From Otogunga.
From Naboo.
Go to Naboo.
From Lake Paunga.
I just like that he didn't have to like
for your boo.
Sponsored by Go to Naboo.
Via Star Tours.
Anyways, all right. So let's talk about
we went to what that scene though with Luthen and Mon Mothma.
Yeah. So the Luthen Mon Mothma scene, I really like that sort of interplay with the they definitely have a system for their.
And
it's getting harder and harder for them to meet.
They're only putting on an act for the driver.
Right.
Yeah. That's it. Only because
everyone else,
there.
yeah.
Everyone else is in on it.
Because he's
and
they have to act for one person.
I love that Luthen's assistant is like. She's got a new driver.
Yeah.
And could we just say the only unrealistic thing about that scene is when the hot assistant
the fact that it takes place on a giant city planet.
The fact
with
that
laser
guy
swords and space wizards.
The fact that driver was in a room full of a bunch of really cool crap, and he was like, "Oh, I'll go look at the coins."
That's not what's so realistic. It's the fact that the
actually,
hot
I'll look
girl
at the
says, "Hey, you want to
coins."
come over and look at some artifacts with me?" And at first he's like, "No, I'm not interested in coins." Let me tell you something. If a cute girl comes up to you and wants to show you coins, we are all
Mate.
interested in coins. Let me see that 1935
Yeah,
dime.
right.
I've never seen that dime. Let me see that
We got a
Civil War
Buffalo
era.
nickel.
I was gonna say,
Oh, show me the
Buffalo
Buffalo
nickel.
nickel. You have a hot girl, and this
First of
guy's
all-
like, no,
First of
I
all,
shouldn't.
maybe he's a married man, and even if he's not,
Check his hand. He has no
even if
ring.
he's not,
God,
the man's
Kevin's
a professional.
scooping out
You
people's
don't,
hands.
you don't flirt with ladies
Also,
on the
we
job.
don't. Also, Kevin, we
He's
don't.
a spy. That's why.
Kevin, we don't know if he's even into ladies.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's a very open space.
He could be into droids.
Ooh, like Lando. All right, yeah.
It works.
There wasn't outside of Luthen's interactions with Cassian and Vel. There wasn't really a whole lot of.
Well, Mon Mothma too. To finish your point on that second location where the Indie Whip is, when she talks about how fearful, like,
yeah.
like imagine it's shades of like if you were must have been how scary if you were a spy during like the Nazi regime and you're like trying to do undercover stuff in Germany back then, and there are spies everywhere. Her it's not like her lip quivers, but you see how strong she
Yeah.
is, but how also she's so fearful. And when she talks about how the banks and everyone was new, and it's so that's what a great get as
Yes.
far as this actress goes. Like she was hired for the Revenge of the Sith, which is barely any work, right? And then she
Deleted
was
scene.
mostly
Deleted
deleted scenes, yeah. And then the fact they brought her back to Rogue One, which was great, but it was too quick. You know what I mean? She was fine. And
Does she voice in Rebels?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I'm sure. Okay.
that's
Anyways,
so
but
good.
And it's
Such a good
seamless
actress.
because she looks so much
Spot
like
on,
the
yeah.
original
You're
actress.
in love with her, aren't you? pal?
Oh,
I don't know. I feel like you're in love with Mon Mothma.
I understand. She looked pretty good in this.
Is she on
episode.
your list? You know how everybody has lists in their relationships. Like, oh, like I'm
Yeah.
allowed to cheat with you.
If I ever meet Mon Mothma, that's my hall pass.
If I ever meet real
know,
life Mon Mothma.
Sabrina
Wait.
probably has like
If
Brad
they put
Pitt.
Mon
you have-
Mothma in
No,
Galaxy's Edge.
no, hold on.
Buddy, game on.
Hold on.
Game
Sabrina has Andrew Garfield.
It's
or Spider-Man or Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield.
I like
Actual
that
person.
Sabrina knows now we're talking about who's on her list on a Star Wars show. But on your list,
Sabrina
it's
has
gotta be
Andrew
Mon
Garfield.
Mothma.
Brandon Mon Mothma.
Fictional characters.
Oh fuck!
Just imagine her
I'm
like when
just-
you come
I'm
home
just-
from work and she looks at you and she's like, and she cooks for you and she's like, many Bothans died for me to bring you this meatloaf.
I was just gonna.
This Bothan roast.
I was just gonna say I understand why all those Bothans spent their lives.
They sent. Yeah.
We love you, Mon Mothma.
Oh boy. Well, speaking of Mon Mothma and
But real quick, also, I mean, yeah, I'm on
Love
Mothma,
Life.
That, no, but we can get to that. Sure.
Hotter than a Mon Mothma in here.
Hey, it's L.A. this time. What do you want to do? Anyways, it was
screws up the
interesting
audio.
to see that her being in that state of that time of the Empire and everything that she's doing with Luthen and who's this mystery person she wants to bring in. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
'Cause
I
she's
don't
already
know.
Who
who
knows
is
from
it?
the deleted scenes in Revenge of the Sith? She's been working with Bail and Cat.
Yeah, so it's
and,
most
like,
likely
so-
not. It most likely isn't anyone from the delegation
Right.
of 1000. But
It's Saw Gerrera.
as
It's
a
gotta be,
as
right?
a
Or no,
well,
she
hold
didn't
on.
like Saw.
But
Maybe.
this might be. We might not yet know why she doesn't like Saw.
Yeah, this could lead
The
to
other
that.
thing, although most likely with what we've seen with Saw Gerrera in Rebels, he was already kind of an
Yeah.
extremist. So lies, deception. It could. It could be. So it could be Bail
Yeah.
because even though Bail was kind of in on the initial delegation of
Luthen might not
1000,
know, yeah.
they Bail might not be taking an active role yet, right?
Right.
I'd have to go look back and look
got
at
a
the
daughter
timeline
to
of Rebels
raise.
when Leia first shows up, but I don't think because Leia shows up in season 1 of Rebels, meaning Bail's already actively working
Right.
towards.
And we know
The rebellion.
That's about around this
Well, what if-
time, yeah.
Yeah, that's about
Right?
this time.
Could you imagine if the new person is Leia? They bring Leia into
Yeah.
another show.
Oh God.
Never, dude.
Well, but it'd have to be a
Yeah,
different
'cause-
actress.
Yeah, it would. It would be the actress that played her in Rogue One, probably de-aged.
Yeah, they would
Like the-
CGI her again. Yeah.
Anyways,
I
that's
would-
not gonna happen.
But yeah,
I have an embarrassing Forrest Whitaker story. Actually, I worked for the
all
No
right,
Da-
let's talk about that.
Well, no, just because we were talking about Saw, I worked for the No Dance Film Festival, which was a subsidiary of Sundance.
What a name drop.
It was called No Dance. Yeah, let me pick up that name. But he was really nice, and I was really drunk. So I already had met him because he was sponsoring this mini festival, and I was working the festival. I was in college still. And we got drunk that night, and I sat at a table with him and talked to him for about 5 minutes, and I was drunk. And I said, man, like, I loved you in Good Morning Vietnam. Like, honestly, like, I wish you were my uncle. Like, could you adopt me? That's what I said. To Forrest Whitaker, Saw Gerrera, I asked him to adopt me as his nephew. So let the record
That's
state,
why
I'm
we
sure...
can't get him on the show.
We're probably not getting him on the show. He's gonna be like, "You're that douchebag with I used to have spiky hair,
Or
with the
he's gonna be,
piercings." Oh,
or
it was
even
bad.
better, he's gonna be like, no, I won't be on your show. My nephew never calls me anymore.
Good Lord.
Okay, so
Are
I
we gonna
love.
see Mon Mothma kicked out of the Senate? Or
Well,
that's
no,
gonna
because we know the dissolution. Well, maybe.
well, no, she's not part of it. Like, she's not in Rebels. She's not in the
Wait.
Senate anymore. She's finally
She gets kicked out of the Senate.
well, not kicked out. She eventually leaves, and I think it's over the Gorman stuff, right? In Rebels. Don't they
Yeah,
mention
I
that?
believe
But I
that's.
thought even in Rogue One she was in the Senate.
No,
she was
no.
not.
By the time of Rogue One,
She was in Yavin
yeah.
with all those.
By the
people.
time of Rogue One, but
But no,
well,
'cause
but all
she was
the
like in
other
a big
people,
rush to get back
because all of the
right?
other people there, all of the
I
other
don't
people
know.
that were there were senators.
Mm-hmm.
We see all of the other senators that are a member.
the
That are,
terrorists.
yeah, like the senator of Terrace, the senator of.
You know, I gotta throw my KOTOR.
Anyways,
I thought there was like something in Rogue One where she's like, I can't be gone for too long. I have to go back to Coruscant.
yeah, but it could have
or
also been.
something.
It could also have. So this is
Yeah,
what
I'm
I want to
interested.
show.
Yeah.
We do see some tension with her husband.
Yeah.
Who we don't know anything. I don't know anything about her husband.
just wants to
in-
party.
Who's a
dude.
good-looking guy, but his personality is
Well,
not attractive.
well, it's
His
just
name's
interesting.
Karen, and he's not a slave.
he's friends.
name
with,
is Anakin.
He's friends with the governor of Hanna.
Well, he is.
Right.
Yeah.
You are now officially canon.
But
canon.
I do want to point out that like everyone he's friends with are like the very like loyalist sort of
Yeah.
senators, right? Like I mean,
The
he's
Nazi
mentioning
Because they're
regime, the
fun,
space
dude.
Nazis.
he's mentioning Sly Moore. He's mentioning like this is the fun side of the table. So there's definitely some sort of interesting conflict in their marriage that we're probably seeing come to a head in the show, which I find super interesting.
It's
do
one of my
wanna-
favorite parts right now that I'm excited for.
I do want to parallel that relationship with Bix and Tim because
Tim.
Yeah.
Bix
Yeah.
wasn't letting Tim in on what she was doing. Mon Mothma's not letting her husband in on what
Most
she's
likely,
And
doing.
that's
right.
gonna get her husband killed. Let's
And
be
very
honest.
Well could. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
or
maybe she won't even blink an eye about it.
right.
But I bet her husband doesn't make a mean cup of calf like Tim.
Like Tim.
And
Tim
he
makes
orders
a
it
great
from
cup
the
of calf.
housemaid.
Yeah. Also, what a interesting.
So yeah, that part
He's a
was
Jawa
really
juice
interesting.
kinda
Mon
guy.
Mothma dismissing the,
Yeah.
the help. Like
Yeah,
that. So
not-
like she's not immune to the elaborate
Right.
the elaborate lifestyle.
And the home is so lavish.
Or
and
she's putting
so-
on a front.
Because
and
when
Like
we-
half the budget of that episode went to her home.
Well, it was
like she's
because-
doing like a Bruce Wayne douchey type thing.
Well,
Yeah.
and when we
Yeah.
see that shot in the trailer of her walking through
Cannot wait
the
for that
home,
scene.
I had thought, okay, that's either the Chandrillan embassy or that's on Chandrilla. No, that's just her home on Coruscant.
she just has lots of money. 'Cause
Well,
she talks
yeah.
about moving money and stuff like that.
Right.
And she just has. She's very well off, and she's obviously a great ally for
Well, I mean, if I think
rebels. And
being an Imperial senator, you can't be any more well off than that.
sure.
No, you're right.
She's
You're
playing her
right.
part to perfection, and I love the Bruce Wayne reference. Like I really do feel like that's the mask, and right now she's wearing that
Sure.
mask, and she must loathe her husband because her husband's so steeped in that culture
In
in
the-
that world,
right.
and he's saying that the fun table are literally people that cut off trade routes to
Right.
Gorman, and if you remember that in the storyline in Rebels, that's she name drops Gorman too. Like that's one of the reasons I think I hate that I don't know this. We should research this. I feel like she left the Senate on her own accord. She finally leaves the Senate.
She drove off in her Honda
I'll
Accord.
see if I can try to find an answer to that.
Her Hanna
What
Space
is-
Accord.
What is interesting too, though, is that when seeing Mon Mothma in that environment, acting in that way for a split second, it makes me wonder. And maybe the stories are out there. I don't know if Mon Mothma was like her husband, and that's how they met. And that's why they got married. And then she had a crisis of faith moment or something. Something that really made her look at what she was doing the Empire, especially when you get to Revenge of the Sith, in that timeline, and made her change her line of thinking and see things differently. Whereas her husband still hasn't,
Do we know?
And that's not his fault. It's just that's his life.
Do we know when they got married? Because maybe they got married.
I feel like they got married really young. I feel like I've read that somewhere.
So if they got married in the Clone Wars, then
now we just got copyright.
Then they got married at a time where they both share the same ideologies because they're both
yeah.
pro-Republic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what.
And
Because otherwise, that's a really weird, interesting marriage.
It's like
they don't have arranged marriages.
This is a really weird comparison, but like you ever see the Family Guy bit?
Oh boy!
Oh god, he's going there. He's going there, people.
When the TV announcement of O.J. Simpson being
oh my gosh,
the verdict of him being innocent, and like Brian is like all like what the hell, and his friend's like excited, and then
it's exactly like that.
It is because like so when I could just imagine Palpatine making his speech, but like the Republic will be reorganized into the first galactic empire, and the husband's like and Mon Mothma was like what?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. But this is a good segue, actually. The juxtaposition.
Before we get to that segue, I did find an answer. I don't have an exact year, but I think it does happen during Rebels that she
leaves.
Well, because they make the Declaration of Rebellion, and that's when she is
officially part of it.
Ripping off America, huh?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's one.
And I feel like in that episode, Gorman is named again. And
yes,
that's one of the key things. That there was a Gorman's massacre. It's like 3 years after this show. It's like 3 or 4 years after this show, the Gormans there's a massacre, the Imperial massacre of Gorman, and that's
it
one
actually
of the things
it
that
actually
spurs
might not
her
be it actually might not be even a full 3 years because Rebels starts, I believe, about 5 BBY.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
They have some time jumps.
So I'm very proud of this segue, so I'll try it again here. But the juxtaposition between the high class of Coruscant, right, and the Mon Mothma, and then you go from that to the wilderness of this resistance group. And now we could talk about these resistance guys. And I feel like I love the themes in Star Wars, how technology versus the nature, right? Ewoks versus the Imperials. And now like even part of their escape plan when they're going to be using this meteor shower thing as a cover, that's nature versus Imperials.
What a cool plan.
Yeah, love that. It's so Star Wars. It's awesome. But what about the exactly, but the wilderness. What do you guys think about this group? I like to call them Avalanche. They totally gave off that vibe of Final Fantasy VII when my man right here lived with me and I watched him play through that game.
2 weeks.
For 2 weeks?
Yeah, it was like 2 weeks.
2 weeks? You lived with me? You lived with me longer?
No, I played the game. Beat the game in 2 weeks.
Straight.
Hey, Kevin, have you ever thought about doing like Final Fantasy VIII, the movie?
No, those days are over. Okay. For the most part, we're just doing the rest of the episodes. But no, I think that group in the wilderness, and we'll get into the names. Namek was cool. That was his name, right?
Namek, yeah.
Yeah, Namek.
They're all gonna die.
Sort of.
I think everybody's gonna die.
I love Namek. I love Namek so much. Like just this timid little.
Yeah.
Like he's sleeping. He like made this model. He's like, careful, the glue's not dry. Oh, sorry, it's not to scale. As like
Doc Brown. Sorry,
as,
this is not.
But
to scale.
okay, but as like a miniature painter, a model maker, like I felt
It
that.
warmed your heart.
Felt that so much. Like he's like it's. And they're all like, yeah, whatever, it does the job. It's great.
Yeah.
It looks good. And he's like, it's not to scale. He's finding all his own flaws in it. I love that so much.
It's fine, Doc. It's fine.
Yeah.
But you want, that character, and I feel like he symbolizes too, because you talked about it. He talks about when he sees Andor, and he's like, "Oh, I think he's in on it." But like this kid, he's more about the cause, right? They don't know that Andor is just about the money right now, and Andor hasn't said anything about that.
Well, I
and
think
that's going to be an interesting thing when they find out that he's there for the money.
Andor thinks he's
I think Andor. Yeah, I think Andor's putting up. You talked about this earlier. I think Andor's putting. That's the face he's wearing, right?
Yeah.
That's the front he's putting up. That he doesn't care about the cause, but really, that's all he cares about is the cause. He doesn't care about. He only cares because for him.
I don't think he cares about the cause yet. I think these events are about to get him there.
I don't think he cares about the cause in the same way.
Yeah.
For Andor, survival is his form of rebellion.
Yeah.
Right? This show is about showing Andor a better form of rebellion. So whether or not he's actually fully bought in on the cause, his purpose is the same. You know what I mean?
Right. He wants to get this job done to A, live, and then B, get paid. These rebels want to get the job done because it's part of the rebellion.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they have mutual the same outcome. You know, they're going for the same thing, but for different reasons, right?
But
Right, but I don't
Vel
think-
was very cool. That was a cool.
But
I like the actress who played her.
But I don't think Luthen. I think the whole point of Luthen picking Andor is because he thinks Andor is for this cause.
No,
Well,
I think
see,
he thinks Andor is going to
this
become
is actually
for the cause.
Yeah, this is actually a point I want to talk about real quick because Luthen says to Vel,
We get deep on this show.
you know, that's the great thing about Cassian or
We get to
Clem-
the
Clem is
planet
like, he's-
core.
he's expendable.
Right.
He says that. And now everyone's also, but like as the audience, we don't believe him, or we don't want to believe him,
Right.
that he thinks Cassian is expendable. But what if Luthen actually
I
does
don't
think that?
know
I
because
know, but
because
my point is-
because
my point-
Luthen went through such an effort to get him.
Sure, sure. But I think, like, as I'm saying, like, as I've been saying, everyone is putting up these fronts, and you don't really know people's true meanings. They're always hiding behind a story.
I think-
a made-up story. He's telling one story. He could be telling one story to Cassian. He's telling one story
To Vel.
Mon
Oh,
Mothma,
that's
he's telling
absolutely
one story
true.
To Vel.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
He's telling different all these stories, and now as the audience, and this goes for like all of the characters. You're still trying to figure. What I love about the show, this aspect of the show, is you're trying to figure out what's the true part of that character you're trying to find.
What
I think
what thread
Luthen
is
is
real?
grooming. He's grooming Cassian as almost like Palpatine was grooming Anakin. He knew that Anakin could turn to the dark side. I think Luthen knows that once Cassian is involved, something will move him, and he will become a great asset to the rebellion. I think he's playing 3D chess, right? And I think he sees a couple steps ahead. I think he knows that he knows everything about him. He knew that he was a cook. He knows about his childhood and stuff. So I really think that he's scoped out Cassian. And I think he knows that what these events that is going to happen with this heist, I think, are going to totally push Cassian further for the cause. But I think right now, still, Cassian's only about the money and then getting the hell out of there.
Well, let's connect some dots here, right? So what is
I was gonna do the same.
what
oh,
is
man. You were going to do the same thing?
so
I'm out. I quit.
a big
Life.
central part of this episode is introducing the ISB, the Imperial Security Bureau. What is their function? Like pull. I don't, and I'm not talking about that line.
He
That
literally
line-
asked.
I want to
I do
talk about
too.
that line.
I do too.
Great line.
I do too.
Put a pin in
tells
that.
us.
Actually, no. Let's talk about
Say
the
it
line
now.
first. So because I love that line where he asks, "What do we do here?" And I don't remember her name.
The ISB agent. I don't. Yeah, I don't. They actually never said it in the episode,
No,
and I know it's out there. but-
Dedra Miro.
Dedra Miro.
Good
Okay.
name. That's a solid Star Wars name.
Oh, right there. Yeah, Dedra Miro.
I'm just kidding. I made that.
Yeah,
up.
they don't
I'm
ever
just
say that during the episode.
They never say her name.
No. Okay.
And it's not even in the captions, actually.
No. Interesting. Dedra.
Oh, sorry. Hey, Deborah. Oh.
So,
Kermit the Frog here, along with Alan Alda and Howard Stern and Ray Romano. Hey, Deborah. Sorry.
All right.
So,
I
all right.
do apologize for that.
So Dedra Miro does say, like, gives the textbook answer,
Right,
and he
right.
says,
The mission statement.
and he says, he's like, yeah, that's what it says. Like, that's what it says on the box, but really,
Right.
he says we are healthcare.
Yeah. We treat sickness.
I love that.
We treat the disease.
But
And he believes
Sounded
it
like an
too.
Inquisitor
yes,
guy.
and he absolutely the Inquisitors already exist.
I know, but like that line from
Sure.
the Grand Inquisitor and
Yeah.
Obi-Wan, yeah.
But it's definitely like the ISB's function. If you step back from the in-world Star Wars thing, they're the CIA, they're the NSA, they're the spycraft arm
Yeah.
of the Empire. So we're seeing this big organized spycraft arm of the Empire, and then we have Luthen, who is he's a rebel spy, right? Like he is a proto-rebel spy training Cassian to be a rebel spy, because that was Cassian's role by the time of Rogue One. He is a spy. So it's so interesting to show these two, the difference between these two spycraft organizations. And I actually think that's what this show is really about, right? It's about
a lot of things, but
but like from like a plot standpoint,
Sure.
most likely we're probably going to get Cassian and Luthen working against the ISB specifically.
yeah.
Spy games. Yeah.
Right. It's a spy, because we know a lot of the I don't know directors and
George Lucas.
no, I know him,
Gershner,
but Tony
Richard
Gilroy
Marquand.
someone on this show was involved with the Bourne
and
series.
movies.
Is that Tony Gilroy?
Born Legacy.
You pick Tony Gilroy.
Yep. Legacy, yeah.
You pick Tony Gilroy to write. They picked him because they want a spy thriller show. So I just find that super interesting.
So the line where he's about, we treat the sickness, we treat the disease.
We
He's
find the
talking
germs.
about,
and he says,
he's talking about the people.
well, and he
That's what
says,
that's-
but
that's
but
the
he also
rebels.
says
Yeah,
he also
That's
says
the rebels. Like
He's
the
just people.
but he
so-
also says from within and without.
Yeah.
Right. So he's worried about Imperial
Changes within,
defectors, and it's so interesting, and it's such a good these are the kinds of things that as lifelong Star Wars fans and as people who have read the books and played games and whatever, we know about these stories. We've seen this stuff in books. We know about the ISB from other mediums.
Yeah.
We see in Rebels the ISB is a big
Yeah.
component of that too.
There's a whole we got an episode of when Wedge defects.
Yeah,
So
right.
Yes, that was such a.
Yeah. But I like I was saying, that whole line of we treat the sickness, we treat the
Yeah.
disease, and he's talking about the people that
Well,
are not with
that's
them.
the other
Whoever's
that's
not with
And
them
it's
is
like-
against them. Basically,
That's the other
it
function-
Believes that's the best villains are the ones
That-
that
they're
believe.
there to ensure the health of the empire.
truly
well,
believes
and
it.
of the
Yeah,
empire
yeah,
from an ideological
Yes,
standpoint.
yes, exactly.
Because part of the other thing the ISB does is they're not just a spycraft agency, but they're also partially responsible for the propaganda machine.
Yeah.
Right? It's a
I
very
just
nice.
thought of a dumb joke.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, you're supposed to say
supposed
them.
to say
Brandon.
it, not
I
warn
don't know
us.
why I hesitated.
Say it.
Because you were like, oh, they're not just whatever. I was like, yeah, they're also party planners. Or something stupid like that.
If you see them too, they're all in white. The room is white. Everything feels
Sterile.
sterile and
Sterile.
clean, like how we sterilize these chairs.
Well, and even
these
even
chairs. But yeah, that's so.
Oh, the Empire.
well even as far back as A New Hope, and this wasn't Lucas's plan when he put him in there, right?
Maybe it was. I don't
you
know.
know.
Luke and Leia were always going to be brother and sister.
It's like
I kiss
when
my
I
sister
put
all the time.
when I when I put Admiral Yularen in that little chamber. But in episode 4, if we're drawing parallels, right, you see all these gruff arguing, Imperial officers, and then Admiral Yularen in his all white ISB uniform, just sitting there watching the whole thing, stoic, silent, calculating. Probably, if he didn't get blown up on the Death Star, planning how do I deal with
Yeah.
Vader and Tag, because at that point Vader wasn't, at the top. It was Tarkin, right? How do I deal with Vader because he's a problem, right?
Yeah. Always something going on in their heads. You know what I mean about the cleansing and about it's.
Yeah, so super interesting.
I loved it, and there's
and
no
it's-
and it's no coincidence that they were it was by design. It's all in this sterile room, and it's so good.
And the ISB is very it reeks of corporate politics where she goes to that other guy who was dealing with
Right.
Morlana, the Pre-Mor Authority,
Um,
and she's
Blevin.
and she's going in there like, hey, I need everything you have on Ferrix.
And I love when he's reading the records. He's like, they spelt Ferrix wrong. I love that.
So cool. Those
And-
little side things.
And so they have that whole interaction, and she's talking about, I don't need career advice from you, trying to go up the ladder. I mean, that's such a corporate type of.
And you know what? Here's the thing. I believe her.
Yeah,
I believe.
100%.
I believe that she legitimately just wants to cover her own ass on this, right? And now, Kevin,
But also at the same time, if she gets promotion in the process,
well,
so
well,
be
hold
it.
on. But I want to raise another possibility, and I'm copying my neighbor's notes for the test here.
Yeah.
Kevin,
Sorry, I'm
you
Kylo
wrote.
Renning Inside joke.
It's just us now.
You wrote. What was the purpose
Hostile
of
Cassie.
what is it? A star map?
No, yeah, I was wondering what. What the
Star Wars.
what's
the
the
Star-
Star Path unit?
Star
What's
Path
the
unit.
Star Path unit?
So we found out the Star Path unit is from the system that she controls.
Yeah.
Right. Which
What is it? Is it like an air conditioning unit or
No,
something?
it's
we
a-
could really use it in here.
well,
Cassian
so
describes it in the third episode to Luthen.
he does briefly, and I don't remember what he says exactly.
It's a Meta World VR headset.
We keep forgetting to interact with our fans, but why don't you leave a comment in the comments below and let us know what is a Star Path
Make
unit?
sure
What do you think?
if you've made it this far, hit that
So
like button.
I did
Smash that
subscribe.
subscribe button.
This was the one thing I did write the note on.
Sting
so
that
she
subscribe
controls
button.
the steer guard naval yard.
Yeah.
Which means that it's
Sounds hardcore.
Yeah, it does. You're right. But
That
which
sounds
means,
like a band name.
That's 2 band names from the show.
hello everyone, we're steer guard naval yard.
What city are they from? I feel like Barstow.
Yeah, Barstow.
We're from Barstow.
Hello,
rock on.
Barstow, California.
Or Fresno. Maybe Fresno.
naval yard.
No disrespect
They're
to
like a
Fresno
metal
or
band, like a
Barstow.
heavy
I love
metal
you guys.
band.
What are the fans called of this band? What's their groupie names? Steeries?
Cattle.
Yeah, dude. Where's my cattle at?
What's up, all you cattle?
Time to rock your.
Who's ready to turn this place into a slaughterhouse?
And then the mosh pit in the middle. Is, everybody get in on the
They
slaughter.
play heavy metal jizz music though.
You guys all sound like strong band right now.
How do we go from what is a Star Path unit to talking about a concert being portrayed? This is the show, folks. This is why we are Scoundrels Inc.
by the
Be
way-
sure to like and subscribe.
If you want, by the way, if you want to hear the death metal or the metal version of the Cantina song, look up Galactic Empire on Spotify. They have a great metal Star Wars album.
Oh, cool.
It's the best. But so Star Path unit,
the best.
the Star Path unit, from what it sounds like a navigation computer,
Right.
like basically.
Got one of those.
But
It's for Imperial. Like you could track Imperial.
you can track
got
Imperial
that
ships.
Vader
Got that
is?
on my phone.
So
dude.
there's two possibilities because they mentioned tracking Imperial vessels, but the one thing I want to pull out here is that they when I hear Star Path, it sounds to me like hyperspace lanes,
Sure.
right? So it could have something to do with secret hyperspace lanes. We could be looking at, again, I'm pulling from Legends here, but you've got the Maw in
Solo.
Legends. It's in Solo, but in Legends, the Maw is where they is.
Oh, here we go.
Sorry, Ma. Oh, sorry. Ma, I love steak pizzaiola.
There's an episode where he talks about that. He loves steak pizzaiola.
If you want to listen to our Everyone Loves Raymond podcast,
Yeah, we're branching out.
Blue Chinese food. It's another episode where he says Chinese food like that. Also.
Is there another
Yeah,
episode?
I've seen a lot of episodes of that show.
almost all of them, right?
I've probably seen them.
You like the one? You like the one with the luggage and the cheese in the stairwell? And the one with the luggage and the cheese. Oh, as a married man,
friend of
I
the
understand
show,
sometimes you go in
Brad
these
Garrett,
little-
is in that
Friend of
show.
the show, Brad Garrett.
Deborah.
All right. So
Circling back to Star Path unit.
in
Rodney Dangerfield, Ray Romano. I mean, just all the hits.
Hijinks ensue when you watch The Scoundrels Inc.
we're never
Back to the show.
all right. So in the Maw,
Get to your point already.
I'm trying.
That's like the Han Solo. I need this for to see C-3PO. I need this. Hurry up already! And then the quick head turn, like that. Perfect. Okay. back to you.
In Legends, the Maw is where I lost audio on this. Whatever. In Legends, the Maw is where they build. That totally just fucked up the audio too, didn't it? In Legends, the Maw is where they.
I'm never gonna let you finish.
This show's gone off the hyperspace rails.
Off the rails.
I wanna see if you can
Grab
finish
your
this sentence.
conics.
The Maw is where they
is where they
build,
build-
it's like special weapons and the Death Star and like secret projects.
Okay.
And the only way to access it was with
Scarif.
special hyperspace lanes. And also in Clone Wars we see they're trying to deal with in the Clone Wars movie. One of the reasons they're trying to make a deal with the Hutts is so that they can get their hyperspace lanes, which should be quicker than separatist hyperspace lanes. Because in Star Wars, something they don't talk about in the movies a lot, and probably never will because it's kind of boring, hyperspace lanes are like interstate highways. You don't just jump from point A to point B and just get there in a straight line. You're taking designated hyperspace lanes. That's the point of a navigation computer.
Right.
So, which is what the Sith Wayfinder does. So I guess they did talk about it in a movie, and we see how that turned out.
I like them.
There's there's good and bad.
John, don't let him distract you.
Yeah, fuck you, Kevin.
All those ships.
Oh, there it is. There's
Wait.
the,
Wait.
Hey!
You silently fed fuck you to someone this episode.
No, I already told the fans to fuck off already. You missed it. So that's what my thought is, right? It's some sort of unit to track hidden hyperspace lanes, but we also know it does some sort of ship tracking. So we've got this ISB agent who's worried about her. That's from her sector, right? I'm wondering if something's going on in her sector that she's trying to keep under wraps, and that's
Like a
why
mummy.
she's going to go cover her ass. And she's
She's going to turn good like
no. But there's a lot of infighting in the Empire, right?
Okay.
So it could be a matter of like she really doesn't want a promotion because whatever she has going on there is what's going to get her a promotion. But now he has it.
Yeah.
Blevin has it now.
Yeah,
So she wants to
yeah.
make sure Blevin doesn't get whatever's on there.
Oh, Blevin.
Which could also go to your point. Maybe she's already a double agent.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think there's
Right.
I mean, that goes back. That goes to
well,
that
'cause
topic we
we
want to
do
talk about one
have,
day. How many redemptions can we have in Star Wars?
We kind of
Can't have another redemption.
It would be interesting if she was a rebel spy because otherwise she's kind of just like a cookie cutter repeat of like what's his name like.
Callus, but then it's more like she's
You
going to be a
know?
repeat.
Like,
of
like I
Callus.
don't like an overachiever.
Here's the thing. I don't think
spoken the
I'm,
wheel.
I'm
of
not
the
expecting.
Empire,
I'm not expecting a redemption so much as I'm expecting she's already a double agent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If anything.
Oh, I love that.
Right.
I
Well,
love
we
that
have,
idea.
Lieutenant, what was his name? Gorn?
Are we going to
Gorn.
see Callus?
Lieutenant
Are we gonna
Gorn.
see Callus? in
Because
this
other-
show?
Right.
I would like to. I don't know.
Otherwise, she's
Live
just a
action Callus
repeat
played
of
by
this other
Carrie Ells?
dude.
Would you do that?
I don't know
Yeah.
his name.
Carrie Ells for
Carrie
Callus?
Ells? Nah.
Who do you got?
Who the hell is Callus?
I'm not
you
gonna
watch
have
Rebels?
Callus in this.
You watch it?
No.
Brandon, you gotta watch Rebels.
What are you doing?
Are you serious?
What are you doing? Hey!
Callus
You
is
love that show, by the
So
way.
so Callus is an ISB agent who falls in love with Ralph McQuarrie, Chewbacca.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that?
Well, not. Yeah.
Thought you were gonna stop at Ralph McQuarrie.
No, it's
Him too.
it's the like
I love your
concept
fan
art
fiction.
Chewbacca.
His art is
That's his
beautiful.
fan fiction. Somebody check
yeah,
his hard drive.
yeah, Ralph McQuarrie and Agent Callus. That's my
But we
steamy.
do know
Hey,
that like
the man never could get clouds right.
You need just
Watch
Google
the-
Agent Callus.
documentary.
Maybe
on
Star Wars Explained. Friend of the
Disney
podcast
Plus.
has a video about him, but you should.
everyone's a friend.
I don't think. Well, Alex is actually.
I mean,
he's my friend.
Do we have an
at least.
enemy of the podcast? I want to be.
Not
I want to be like, hey,
yet.
enemy of
Not
the.
yet.
Joseph Scrimshaw.
Hey, listen, listen, if you've got a Star Wars podcast or a Star Trek podcast and you want to be enemy of the show, let us know.
Yeah,
we'll
love
make it
to have
happen.
An enemy of the show.
I was gonna say we do know that there are Imperials who go back and forth. We have Lieutenant Gorn, who's with that rebel cell on what's Aldhani. He's part of that garrison. That they're
Right,
trying
and we
to-
also see in
Restore,
Obi-Wan,
yeah.
Ilaria
Right.
Sand. I don't remember her name in Obi-Wan, but
I hate
her.
sand.
Yeah. So like this isn't a foreign concept.
Yeah, and but also if we're going with that whole spycraft angle,
Yes.
it would be interesting. There's part of me is trying to see like what's the overarch, where's this show going, right? So if we're doing this in 3-episode arcs, right? So arc 1 is the Ferrix arc, arc 2 is them breaking into this Imperial vault,
The heist.
and then arc 3 could be
Pod races.
pod races.
That'd
You're
be
right.
really
You know what?
cool.
I wish I had thought of that.
Wasn't Bix? It looked like she was working on a pod racer engine. Was that just me?
No, I mean it was some sort of engine nacelle unit, but we could see. So then Arc 3 could be
Saw one of those on
Luthen
Mouse
taking,
there.
her and Cassian. Like he's building his spycraft team, right? And we'll probably see the one guy in Rogue One that gets shot. What's his name?
Oh
that
yeah.
guy?
Shoot.
Wait, which one?
The Cassian shoots. in
The
beginning.
Cassian shoots.
Oh,
at the beginning.
Tivik.
Tivik.
Jesus.
Cass Ken Napsuck knows who it is.
Yeah.
Sorry,
That's
Schmodown reference.
Only reason I ever remember it because I remember him going, Tivik.
He was so mad too because he had a chapter he said he had a couple pages of his book about Tivik too. So that's how Schmodown is sometimes. You get asked a question and you just can't
You know
pull
it, yeah.
He
Bro,
wrote
it's
a book
over.
about it.
Stop talking about it. It's over. Get over it, man.
It's not over. It's not over
actually-
yet.
It's not
It's
over.
over on
In fact,
Saturday.
this Saturday is the
Yeah, I know.
grand finale.
This
So you
Saturday
should promote it.
at
Don't you have a rundown show to
PM.
promote?
Oh yeah.
Pacific
It's up there,
time.
yeah. So,
Wow.
Is it daylight or standard time that we're in right now?
never-
I feel
I
like
can
it's
ne-
still
I don't know.
daylight.
I can
It's
never
time to
remember.
wrap it up.
It's time to
Well,
wrap
let's talk
it up.
about the first of all. Let's talk about the ending again. What do you guys think?
Oh, yeah.
So now we had the other endings where it was kind of acceptable because we got to watch 2 more episodes. For me, I was watching it. It was super late at night, and I remember going to the timeline, or you could see like the window of how much time's left, and I remember there was like 9 minutes left. So. He had informed me later that the credits, they have all of the translations credit, all of the different languages credits. That's why the credits are long. So I'm
Credits
watching
will
it.
do
There's like
fine.
8 minutes left, and I'm thinking, oh, cool.
No,
we have a lot.
they
And then
won't.
all of a sudden, they're like, hey, read this data pad, study this overnight. And then he's just like, all right. They just cut to black. Now,
I loved it.
For me, out of the blue, I was like, okay, well, good. I can go to bed now because I was exhausted. I watched it at midnight. But I was thrown off a little bit. I'm still not a fan. I always think, just as an editor, in reality, I know I work in reality. It's a totally different thing. It's not scripted ahead of time, but you're always trying to find that good. When in this scene when is there a good moment to get out of the scene to keep people staying tuned? And I think there were other moments that you could have acted out on in the show.
Or you could have just swapped around. Like you could have ended on the conversation with Mon Mothma and her husband. Would have been a good ending.
Yeah.
You could have ended on something involving the ISB.
They could have had him
and Miro.
Could have had him walking back to his tent with like hardcore drums playing.
Yeah, and then next
Slow motion.
episode we
That's what
see he's
Zack
just
Snyder
going to
would
meet
do.
a friend.
He's
Here's
just
what
going to take a
I
nap.
think the this show's so good that I don't think people are going to be doing fan edits to like correct things and how a lot of people were doing those Obi-Wan edits. But
I'm
I
gonna
do
add
believe
Watto in.
that there's going to be fan edits where they're going to take the 3 episode arcs and they're just going to call it like Andor Part 1, Andor Part 2, and there'll be
What
those
a
3
waste
episode
of time.
arcs.
I'm not
Yeah,
gonna lie.
who would do that?
Honestly, no. If you do it for Andor, I just think that's a waste. Of
Yeah,
time.
because it's already
Why not?
set up. Because
But if
you
you're
just
not
hit
touching
next-
anything, all you're doing, you're talking. This is from the
Because-
guy that did a
because-
Star Wars
okay.
Episode 3 fan edit.
because I could just hit
Nothing's
next.
a waste of time.
Well, but the difference is I could just hit next episode.
yeah.
What I think
Or you
is-
can keep playing it and
Sure,
not
we
hit
should,
next
we should
episode.
replace Andor with Watto, and then when
I'm a Toydarian.
yeah, he's
Which-
like,
so when they're
don't
like,
you want to fight these bastards for real? And he goes, only money.
well, so or when like he walks up to camp and they're all like, well, like who are you? He's like, I'm a Toydarian. My tricks don't work on me. Only
I will
money.
say the way they ended the episode, I liked it.
Why?
Because
No money, no parts,
because of that
no
part,
deal.
yeah.
But yeah, I want to hear why.
Because it's like I want the next episode now. I want
Right.
more. It leaves me. It's every
Patience,
episode when
my
it,
young
when it
Padawan
ended
learner.
always left me wanting more, and I appreciate a show that always leaves me wanting more. Like
More Lana one.
what?
Well, I do want to. Brandon's spouting off about patience over there.
and so-
I want to mention real quick. I really like Luthen calling his antique shop the Den of Patience. Yeah, I agree.
So like, it works for me.
I agree.
It works for
No,
me.
it works.
It's not going to work for everyone.
It works
for the director.
It works for me better than the ending for episode 1 and 2 worked. The difference is for episode 1 and 2, I got to immediately go watch the next episode. Again, I think this show, I think some of the odd pacing is going to do so much better when you can go back and watch them all at once. Because ultimately, I think this is 4 distinct 3-episode arcs. And
I wonder if it would have been interesting if it was like monthly releases and they were instead
Yeah,
of the
and
3-episode arcs, they were mini movies.
like almost like a mini binge model, somewhere
Yeah.
between the binge and the weekly model. I would be fine with.
It's interesting. So yeah, it's not going to hit
That's
for
where
everybody.
That's where the business part influences the artistic.
Yeah.
Well, but hold on. Here's the thing, though. If you're going monthly release of a basically a mini movie every month, right? You're still getting that monthly subscription in the same way you would if you're getting weekly viewership.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
So-
not even thinking in terms of the money. I'm just thinking in terms of
Disney is.
they definitely are. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you have to
And
remember.
you're right. You could
Disney-
always click next on the next episode and stuff like that. But I do think that there's going to be people.
Oh, I'm
they
sure
make-
there will be,
They make
but,
fan
like-
edits of everything, dude. They made fan edits of everything.
There'll be people like, why are we
They're gonna make a
talking
fan edit of
about-
this episode of the podcast.
Is that right?
Yeah, someone's
yeah,
got it.
Talk about a waste of time.
They completely eliminate me. So then this podcast is real short. It's like 25 minutes.
And funnier.
And
Yeah.
Wow. That's a
well,
real,
we
that's a
should've
real
ended
dick thing
on
to say.
that. This has been
For the Empire.
Scoundrels Inc. We're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah.
here because we talked about just about everything from episode 4 of Andor, and next week will be episode 5.
Next week's episode 5. Now, here's
Episode
what
4 of the podcast.
here's what I want. Here's what I want from you guys.
Episode 3 of the podcast, not counting the pilot.
Send us your questions for next episode, after you finish watching Andor, what do you want us to talk about? Send us your questions. If you've got a question now, throw it in the comments. We're going to go through it. We're going to curate those next week and actually go through them.
All 3 of them.
Yeah, like who would win in a fight, a Jawa
three
or an
4. We'll get more
Ewok?
than 3
Maybe,
questions.
maybe.
Can they make
Pilot
Ewok
has
juice?
like 34 comments.
I don't know.
All right, so how are we ending this? How are we going to end this one? How are we going to... Last time we did the...
We did the fade out.
We did the fade out.
Yeah.
We
I
just
think
gonna
it should
end
be a
cut
hard
it.
slam.
We should
What
have
you
like a
should do,
goodbye
it should be-
song.
It should be like
You
Sopranos.
You know what? Hey, why don't you
But
put
don't
the
stop believing at the end.
Yeah.
We're not going to monetize this anyway.
why
and
don't
then
you just
cut
put
it
the
to black.
why don't you just
Eventually we will.
why don't you just put the heavy drums?
I'll split the 11
You know,
bucks.
and we'll be
11
running to
cents
the
with
tent. Just put the heavy drums and we'll be running off into the distance.
Scoundrel. Scoundrel. I like the sound of that.